I got a timer for 20 minutes.
Hey everybody, how's it going? My name is Matt Heldstab, and I have a couple of other people on our panel here. Actually, this accelerated one slide. All right. I would like to introduce a couple folks up here that are also on the VMware User Group Board of Directors with me. So we have Tamecka, McCay, and Justin Sider. So why don't I go ahead and let them introduce themselves and tell them a little bit about themselves, and then we'll continue on. So go ahead.
Go ahead, Tamecka.
Sure. Good. Is it afternoon? It is afternoon, isn't it?
Not quite.
It is on the East Coast.
Back home.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Tamecka McCay. I'm the Chief Information Officer for the City of Fort Lauderdale. City of Fort Lauderdale is the largest city in Broward County, one of the top 25 metropolitan areas in the United States. Our IT team is about 75 individuals, and we support the entire city, public safety, the airport, and so forth. So I'm honored to be here with you today.
Cool. My name is Justin Sider. I'm the Chief Information Officer at Belay Technologies. Obviously part of the VMware User Group Board of Directors. Very involved with the VMware community as a whole. Large VMware customer for probably the past 12 to 15 years. So look forward to talking to you about our licensing adventures.
And my name is Matt Heldstab. I am the current Vice President of the VMware User Groups, and I am also a Systems Engineer for the Minnesota State Colleges and University System, which is the third largest system of 2- and 4-year colleges in the country. All right, so let's go ahead and continue on. First of all, what we're going to be talking about is, I don't know if you've heard, there is a new licensing scheme from Broadcom, right? So perpetual keys are pretty much done. If you have a contract that hasn't expired yet, you might be on perpetual, but your next contract will be subscription for sure. So we're going to talk a little bit about our experiences that we've had both at our organizations and some of our people that we work with too. So Tamecka, would you like to start the conversation and give us a little bit about your experiences so far?
Sure. Well, first of all, I've been a VMware user for probably at least 15 years now. In fact, I accredit VMware itself and kind of being a catalyst for my career progression. When I first learned vSphere and we deployed it at the town of Davie, which is where I worked before becoming a CIO for Lauderdale, it really took me from being a help desk tech to being a systems administrator and learning and growing and empowering myself to provide support to my users was very instrumental for me personally and professionally. So when I learned about the changes, I have to admit, if I can be a little transparent, there was a little something in me that died, and I had to go through a mourning period. But sometimes change is good, and sometimes change can be disruptive. But as I hear the vision and as I see the opportunities that are afforded us with this change, I'm feeling more and more positive about what's happening. So we have a medium to small size environment. We had about 30 hosts, and unfortunately or fortunately, we had a couple of natural disasters last year. We lost our 2 main data centers. We had a historic flash flood, and then our second data center, we had an emergency evacuation from our police headquarters because of some environmental challenges. So because of that, we're also in the middle of a transformation, a 3-year plan. Because of the transformation, the modernization, and the disaster recovery, we leverage the opportunity to consolidate our environment and clean up our environment, which some of us, let's face it, we need to do. And because of that, although our original environment, our renewal would have been a lot more expensive, because we're consolidating the environment, leveraging the tools better, we expect to not see as much of a difference in our costs. We also expect to leverage this opportunity to get rid of some technical debt, to optimize the environment, and also upskill our staff.
Fantastic. Justin, how about you? There we go. That's a little better.
All right.
Justin, how about you?
All right, so we had a similar experience. Fortunately, I didn't have any natural disasters to deal with, just people disasters. So we obviously, through the acquisition and through some of the layoffs or rifts. We lost some of our sales team, but we were able to manage to find those salespeople that needed to address our concerns. And similar to what Tamecka said is we were getting ready to go through a large refresh. So we have thousands of servers, thousands of licensing, tens of thousands of cores in our environment. And when we were looking at our refresh over the past 18 months, knowing that the acquisition was coming, we were looking at how can we make our system more efficient? Can we reduce down the number of servers? When we looked at our refresh, could we go from 10,000 servers down to, let's say, 7,000 servers to drastically reduce the cost of our infrastructure? And we were successful with that. Our pricing, unlike some people, have actually had a really good experience with our sales team. We've gone through several rounds of pricing with them. They've been quick to respond to us to let us know during that process when they were unable to get quoting, what was going on. They were informative, they were helpful. And then as soon as they were able to generate those quotes and get it out to the third party, which eventually made it to us as a buying partner, we were able to execute on those purchases. So it was extremely helpful from the VMware team. I know there's been a lot of horror stories, but I can tell you from my experience, it's actually, while it was a long process, it was still a successful process.
Well, my experience wasn't as smooth. We are actually still waiting for our quotes to come back. We've been waiting since March, but just in talking to some of the attendees, I think, and we can verify this, but I think what VMware is doing is they're prioritizing folks who have expiration dates coming up sooner. Our renewal is not until January 2025, and we are still waiting for our quote.
Right. So who here, may I ask, is still on perpetual? Show of hands. Great. Who here has gone to subscription? So we do have a few. Fantastic.
Can we ask one more question?
Yes.
Who here is on subscription and has deployed VCF?
Okay.
Just for the record, not a single hand went up.
So of those of you who are on subscription, who is on VCF for licensing? And who is on VVF for licensing? Any standards for licensing at all? We've got some back there. Yeah, holy cow. It just recurred to me there's a lot of people in the back. Can you guys hear me okay? Or is it a little bit rough? Fantastic. Awesome. Wow, this is great.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a little bit of a different experience than these two do. So as I said, I have 24 of my schools that are VMware customers. Another 7 are customers of another Hyper-V, implementation. But everybody else is VMware, and they love it. They want to stay on it, right? So, but they say these prices are scaring us, right? They're a little bit different because, as you probably know, perpetual licensing at times you purchase and then it's about 20% for the rest of the time until you need to buy more, right? So what they're not doing is they're not comparing the total cost of the ownership of the licensing from the very beginning of the purchase. They're just looking back at their last renewal and they're complaining that it's going up. Whereas with subscription-based, just like Citrix is doing and Palo and a lot of these other companies, and IaaS in the cloud, you pay as you go, right? And so you don't just pay a lot and then pay a little over time. So they're getting used to that idea of having a subscription model. And once you look at that, it kind of changes the game a bit. The second thing is right-sizing your infrastructure. So that is my number one thing that I tell people to do. If your clusters are running at 10% CPU, you're not going to be happy with your contract. You are oversubscribed. You have way too many CPU cycles that you need. So some of my schools, I have actually helped them, not physically, but I've assisted them with the idea of pulling a socket out of their host in order to cut their VMware contract. The bottom line is they didn't need those resources anyway. So pull a socket, move the memory over. If you don't have enough memory slots, then maybe you have to take a second thought. But that is a great way to right-size your infrastructure. One of the things I always tell people is if you had a software developer come to you saying, I want a VM in Azure, for example, 2 CPUs, 8 gigs of RAM. Would you give them 8 CPUs and 32 gigs of RAM just in case they need it? No, you wouldn't. So why are you doing it with your infrastructure? Now that everybody has to right-size their infrastructure, and from this point forward, that's just part of the exercise.
And if that doesn't work, get some help from Mother Nature to knock all of your servers out, and then only turn up things that they ask for. I shared with the team that there were over 100 servers that we never turned back on when we did the recovery efforts. And today, it's been over a year, not one person has called about those servers.
That's great.
Yeah, I think there's also an opportunity to get a cost savings based on the newer CPUs. So historically, there was a 32 CPU limit for a license, and then you had to buy a second license. That no longer exists. There is a minimum, but potentially you could buy less servers with more CPU and save your overall infrastructure cost. So just like right sizing the overall infrastructure, you can right size your actual deployment, your building blocks for what you have in your data centers.
Yes.
There was someone I spoke to, I don't see him in the audience, but he had originally got a quote that was about 3 times as much, but he had did some resizing. Are you here? I don't see
Justin is, he walked to another session.
Okay. I wanted him to share his story. Okay.
Sure. Yeah. No, there are a lot of fantastic.
Oh, there he is.
Oh.
Yeah. Can you share what your experience was when you renewed and you downsized and significantly reduced the amount?
We're going to try and get you a microphone real quick. So this is Justin Brandt. He is a VMUG leader out of Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Yes.
And a longtime VMware user. Welcome to the stage.
Welcome to the stage.
So we had a renewal right as the Broadcom acquisition happened. It took us a while to get our initial licensing, and they initially quoted us the top tier thing. The only 2 things I use in my environment are ESXi and vCenter. So we went back to the licensing team and was like, hey, this isn't what we're looking for. And we were able to consolidate similar to how you did, bring it down a little bit. And then we went ahead and dropped down to VVF, which is what you actually need. We went from a 300% down to more of anywhere from a 10 to 20% increase, which is more of what we were budgeting for previous years.
Nice.
We're seeing it across the board, not just in Broadcom's portfolio, but other software packages. We're seeing an average of anywhere 10 to 20% increase on any type of SaaS service. So that's what we've begun budgeting for. And then to your point, we bought more modern servers and have more, and we have less in total physical costs.
Right, beefier servers, but less of them.
Yes. So that is our experience. And I literally just signed the renewal as of about 3 weeks ago. So, and our VAR got with us and said they are prioritizing the quote or the licensing that's expiring currently versus, ones that are a year out.
So you're the reason why I've been waiting for my quote since March?
Absolutely.
Thanks, Justin. Appreciate it.
Thanks for sharing, Justin.
So another thing that's important to know, anybody here have CPUs with fewer than 16 cores per socket? Anybody, right? If you do, you will be paying 16 cores, whether you use them or not. William Lamb has a website and a blog post where he has it's a Power CLI commandlet that will actually help you calculate your vSAN entitlement as well as your core entitlement and help you figure out how much you're going to need for your next agreement. There are a lot of different things at play. I actually have a talk that I do. There's a QR code there. I am presenting in Boston and Dallas. Anybody from Boston or Dallas at all here? Oh, hey, where, Dallas or Boston? Boston. I will be there on September 19th at your UserCon doing a 50-minute presentation. The entire presentation is actually under that QR code. So I've done it in several different cities, and it gets pretty deep. Too long for 25 minutes. But one of the things that I do talk about is Omnissa. VDI customers out here? Anybody? Omnissa, right? Horizon? Absolutely. So if you are an Omnissa customer running Horizon on vSAN, and your renewal is after May 12th, you only get an entitlement of 100 gigs per core raw for your vSAN. If that's not enough, you need to license your host with VCF and pay for it. So that is something that you're going to have to figure out as you move forward. And so there are some little subtle nuances there, but definitely reach out to your Omnissa team and they'll give you a hand with it. But there are a ton of different circumstances you have to take into consideration. Licensing for hardware like Oracle, or we're a Micro Focus COBOL customer. And so at one point they said, for every physical core you have in your cluster, you have to pay X amount. So we went and bought quad core sockets so we'd save money. Well, those quad cores were paying 16 cores on the next contract. But the good news was we found out that those rules aren't the case anymore. So if you've got some archaic licensing rules, have your developers or whomever check with the hardware vendor or the software vendor, make sure that's still the case. So that saved us probably about $50,000 in licensing because we don't have to worry about them. We just move those workloads to our main cluster, we decommission the servers, don't have to pay for them. So anyway, if you, who here is a VMUG user?
Number.
You guys all should be raising your hands. You all should be raising it. I know you are. So www.vmug.com, you've probably heard that a lot. You go to that website, go to events and user cons, and you're going to see user cons, not just in those cities, but probably a good dozen cities for the rest of the year. We've got an event in the UK even coming up. So we'll definitely see you at one of those user cons. Thank you for that. Any closing thoughts at all, Tamecka?
Well, are there any questions? And is there anyone who'd be open to sharing their experience?
We do have a microphone.
No? All right.
You might have a microphone.
Guess not. Okay. Closing
right.
thoughts.
Closing thoughts, optimize your environment. Don't be afraid of change, and use this as an opportunity really to really plan and build the roadmap that our users and our business partners are depending on us to lead.
Yeah, I think subscription is going to be the future across all of our software. So, optimizing, making sure that your hardware matches your software, and that you're building the right pieces of your infrastructure that work together. That's going to be the best thing to keep your costs down over time.
Yeah, and all I'd like to say is make sure when you right size your environment, don't wait to right size until after you get your quote in an effort to reduce your quote. That sometimes doesn't work. And Broadcom really likes you to be prepared. They don't want to play games. They will work with you, absolutely. Just be completely honest with them. If you've got some financial hardships, be honest about that too. They are willing to help. They absolutely are. That's been my experience. So, yeah. Justin, would you like to make a comment?
Don't be afraid to look at multi-year agreements. Our 1 year and 3 year were almost identical in cost. They were not very far apart. That is how much of a difference we saved by doing a 3 year versus a 1 year. Because like everyone, we were very much on the fence of like, are we going to switch away from this product? Are we going to look at other products? Are we going to? And with the way things have fallen, we are pretty comfortable with where we are at today with the Broadcom acquisition. So don't be afraid to be like, hey, give me a quote. I want a quote for 1, 3, and 5 years. So you can look at doing that multi-year discount.
Yep. And as you do that, also make sure that even if you're pretty sure you're only going, say, VVF, tell them, give me a quote for VCF2, just in case, because if the price is right, we might go VCF. They are empowered to give discounts on VCF, whereas they are not necessarily empowered to give discounts on VVF to the same extent. You might be shocked. I've actually seen people that received a quote for VCF that is lower than the retail for VVF. So it's just something to think about.
I think there was a question.
Would you mind? Thanks, Justin.
You mentioned the 3 and 5 year. Can we sign the contract, like for example, 3 year, and we make annual payment instead of one-time payment?
That would be up to the vendor you're working through. I know we have worked with our vendor at times when our budget's getting ready to reset, where we need something like late in the year, and we'll be like, all right, go ahead and get us a licensing and then charge us onto the next year's budget, because then it falls into budgetary concerns. But I know at least my VAR has offered me similar type of situations where we can do we're going to purchase 3 years and do an annual payment on it. So that's up to whoever your partner is.
Any ELA customers out here? Yeah, so ELA customers, you're probably used to paying every year, prorated amounts. One last thing, The stated out year is gone. So understand that. Typically, we used to calculate total cost of ownership in our ELA, including the stated out year. And those have all been canceled with this new agreement. So if you don't know that, make sure that you understand that.
Yeah.
One more question.
What if you have perpetual license with different expiry date and you want to transition to the new subscription model? How do you do that?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I've got some information on that PowerPoints on that. But for the most part, the subscription model, well, I should ask, who here was a vSphere Plus subscription customer? All right, so we do have one, right? So you guys, two. You guys probably were aware that you couldn't have one vCenter work for both perpetual and subscription, right? That's changed. So now the new subscription model will work with perpetual keys. So for that reason, you'll just keep your normal perpetual keys. You'll do your agreement for subscription. You'll get more keys. They'll go on the same vCenter. Okay. Question?
Poor Justin. he didn't sign up for this.
Thank you, Justin.
We just met with our reseller last week to start the initial quote process, and they requested that we ran RV tools to get our core count and all that. Is that accurate? Because if we go back to what you said, like they may have a total count of cores, but are they necessarily going to know if they're all being used or if we're getting good utilization from those resources?
Yeah, typically they'll actually have you go and download William Lamb's PowerShell or PowerCLI. And so you can do that. I know for a fact account teams will use that data. I've also heard of RV tools, but they've got some calculations they need to do. They can't just add total cores. They have to figure out which hosts are less than 16 and make them 16 and then add them. Whereas William Lamb script does that for you.
Correct. Yeah, it's
If
taking
you
all
really
that.
want to, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, if you really want to make your CFO happy, get a quote for what you would have before you optimize, and then optimize and get a new quote and show them how much money you saved.
Well, yeah, that's where it gets iffy, because if you get a quote before you're optimized, they may give you the same quote.
No, but give them the core and get a quote on that.
Oh.
So you can compare to show how much money you save. It keeps the CFO happy.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Cool.
Were you going to say something, Justin?
No.
Oh, okay.
We like this to be organic, right? We're going to be doing this at 1:30 as well. So hopefully all of you in the back can be sitting here if you have questions and don't have a way to ask them. Anybody that has a question in the back also can ask now if we have any hands back there. Yeah, here.
vSAN licensing. There's going to be a change, right? Earlier, vSAN used to be licensed per gig. Now it is going to be per gig. So
Yeah.
How is that affecting whether we should choose VBF or VCF? Because the amount of entitlement in VBF is just 100 gig per core.
Great. Yes, great question. Right. So with VCF, you have an entitlement to raw 1 TB of storage. It's about a terabyte per core raw. So let's just say your vSAN data store is 100 terabytes, right? And that's probably 200 terabytes raw for most people, right? So that would mean you need 200 cores worth of VCF to entitle your vSAN. Or you would need, I think it would be 2,000 cores of VVF to be able to handle it. There are add-ons for VVF as well, where you can do the 1 TB add-on on top of that. So that will help you with that. And just to understand, if anybody that has perpetual vSAN keys that they purchased that don't expire for a while, those are actually good till expiration, and you can use the new subscription ESXi licenses with the old perpetual keys until they expire. Yes. Yes. Right.
We're done.
We're good?
Yeah, we're done.
All right.
Awesome. Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you.
We appreciate your time. We'll be back at 1:30.